Hello, everybody. I know some of you will be joining me live, and some of you will be here for the replay. So let me just let the people who are going to join us live join. And while I do that, y'all can tell me where you're from. Tell me where you're from. Tell me if you can hear me. I see y'all can hear me. Never mind. I checked my audio. Hi. Hello, everybody. Tell me where you're from. Tell me how you found Wifey for Lifey group. I would love to know. Orlando. I love going to Disney World, but I know that's probably really annoying because I know Orlando probably has more to offer than Disney World. All right. So I'm just going to let everyone kind of roll in. As you roll in, tell me where you're from. Hi, Jasmine from Massachusetts. Hi, Sherry from Orlando. Susan from the UK. Hi, pretty girl from Alabama. Thank you, ladies, so much for joining me tonight. So first, let me preface this live by saying that there is nothing wrong with the concept of hypergamy. Women are hypergamous by nature. For me, everybody has different spiritual beliefs, but for me, it's biblical. If you look in the scripture, the roles for wives and husbands are clearly defined. Although I know as flawed individuals, sometimes we like to cherry pick different scriptures that we like, but for me, it's just about traditionalism. And it's also the way that me and my husband have found work for us, for him to be, not to say that I don't bring in money or I can't earn money. You guys know I had a career. I could go back to my career if I wanted to. It's just to say that as a woman, there's something about having that security and having that reassurance that, your husband is there for you. He's there for you, and you don't have to worry about certain things. So there's nothing wrong with hypergamy. There's nothing wrong with the concept of hypergamy. There is something wrong with dark hypergamy. There's something wrong with sugar babying. There's something wrong with prostitution. These are all dark, demonic ways to try to get what you want. And the truth is, you don't have to lie to get what you want. Okay, it's not necessary. Scheming and lying and, abusing your body. These are not ways that we want to level up. So I want to just, say that there's nothing wrong with hypergamy, and there's nothing wrong with women wanting to be hypergamous. But in 2021, the game has changed. And a lot of women who are teaching you, girl, you got to marry you got to marry up. You got to marry up, you got to marry a man that could give you the life of luxury. And while luxury is nice, and I like nice things, that is not a prerequisite of a healthy, good marriage. You're looking for somebody that shares your values, your spiritual beliefs, that's a hard worker, that's ambitious, and that wants the same thing that you want, whether that be a family or whether that be, whatever it is that you feel like God has for your life. We're all unique. So I want to go ahead and define the three terms that you will hear circulating about hypergamy. The first one, let's just define hypergamy. That is when you marry into a higher social class. So if you're poor and you marry into the working class, well, you're hypergamous. If you're in the working class and you marry into middle class, that's hypergamous. If you're in the middle class and you marry into upper middle class, that's an example of hypergamy. Then there's hypogamy, which is marrying into a lower class. So let's say you have a 4-year degree, your husband has a 2-year degree, that would be considered hypogamy. Now, there are other factors that we could bring in, like, does he make more money than you, even though you have a higher degree? is that still considered hypergamy? I think that would depend on your social circle, how important education is to you, and that's going to be individual to the woman. The last term that is never talked about here on YouTube is homogamy, okay? And homogamy is marriage between people from similar sociological or educational backgrounds. And this is how people get married. This is how people have been getting married since the beginning of time. This is how most women will get married, through homogamy. It probably will not be through hypergamy. And we're going to go into the data and receipts to prove it. Because I think it's very destructive to get online behind a screen, because most of these women don't show their face, okay? They show you pictures and they show you little clips, but they don't show you their husband, they don't show you their face, and they don't show you their lifestyle. And anytime that you listen to people who don't really show you a glimpse of their lifestyle, I am very leery of that. I am very leery of people taking leadership roles online and speaking to young women who do not show their face and who do not show their lifestyle. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying that it's questionable. And YouTube is a dark place sometimes. So I understand why people want to, to have some sort of anonymity. You want to be anonymous, because people are, when you're talking about controversial things like relationship and marriage, it could be dangerous. People have tried to come for me. They have tried. And so I understand the concept, but of wanting to be anonymous. But what I will say is, I'm leery of it, because some of these women are giving some great tips, but they're not based in actual data. And the likelihood of you being able to marry into a hypergamous situation is very, very minimal. So let's go ahead and get right into it. So I've defined the three terms: hypergamy, hypogamy, and homogamy, which is basically what I'm going to discuss right now. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about how people actually get married and what the data actually reveals to us. So marriages are becoming assortative, and they call it assortative mating, or, that's basically what it's called. And it's the inclination to marry a similar partner, especially with respect to those with college degrees or high education levels. We live in a society today where women are educated. Women are educated. We're not in the 1950s anymore. We're not in the 1950s. We're not in the 1960s. Modern day feminism has really destroyed that traditional structure that so many women were able to take advantage of and be moms and be women. And if they wanted a career, they could have a career. But now we're having like a gender confusion going on. Men can be women, women can be men. We have lots of male bashing and even woman bashing. We have sort of a gender war brewing that I see under the surface. And men no longer are the strong men that they used to be. A lot of our men are effeminate and they are feminized, and they themselves are feminist in some cases. And so as you listen to me, please feel free to leave your thoughts and your questions, and I will refer back to you. I'm going to do this as quick as possible. And then at the end, I will answer any questions or thoughts that you have that you ladies want to chat about. All right. So assortative mating is the idea that people marry people like themselves. This is from all the sources, will be linked below in the description box, just for your information. This article is Equality in Marriages Grows, and so does Class Divide. So all of the references, all of the studies, some of them are linked in these articles, and you can go back to the article because I will link them all in the description box below. There's a ton of them there. Okay. All right, back to the article. So assortative mating is the idea that people marry people like themselves with similar education and earnings potential and the values and lifestyle that come with them. So ladies, people don't just marry for education. It's not it's not just about, oh, I have a degree, you have a degree, let's get married. But that is a part of it for some people. For other people, assortative mating is about, your social class, your culture, your religious beliefs, your hobbies, how you physically look. If you look at people, most people have similar couples. Someone that's really fit and attractive is usually with another fit, attractive woman. Bigger people who may be obese or overweight usually pair with people who are overweight and obese. This is across the board. Now, we know there are always anomalies, and there are different circumstances where people obviously have been able to do certain things, but we're not going to speak of anomalies because exceptions don't make the rule. And so that's why we have to know, like, what we're talking about when we're talking about hypergamy and dating and marriage. And we have to know what we're talking about, and we have to know what the data says, or else you're misleading people down a road of destruction. All right. So it was common in the early 20th century, dipped into the middle of the century, and has sharply risen in recent years, a pattern that roughly mirrors income inequality in the United States, according to research by Robert Mayer, a sociologist at the University of California, Los Angeles. People are now more likely to marry people with similar educational attainment, even after controlling for differences between men and women, like the fact that women were once less likely to attend college. Even though the typical husband still makes more than his wife, which that's a good thing, right? The marital pay gap among opposite sex couples has shrunk significantly in the decades since women started entering the workforce. So, like I said, we live in modern times. Most women get an education, go to college, as they should. It's no guarantee that everyone will get married. So women have to be educated. I really despise women who come on the internet and tell young women not to get their education, because that doesn't mean a 4-year college, but maybe you should go to the community college. Maybe you should, get involved in a trade, an online business, investing. I mean, there's so many ways to make money. Any woman who tells you not to get your education, not to go to college, she's a fool. She's a fool, because this is not 1960. You have to have a skill set for yourself, because unfortunately, it's nice to imagine that everyone will get married, but everyone will not get married. So if you don't get married, please tell me how you're going to support yourself if you don't have any skill set. All right. So today, wives make 78% of what their husbands make, according to an upshot analysis of annual survey data from the Census Bureau. That's up from 52% in 1970. So women are making more money. That's essentially what it's saying. Okay? In opposite sex marriages in which both spouses work some amount of time, 29% of wives earn more than their husbands do, up to 23% in the 1990s and 18% in the 1980s. So these are statistics. It's showing the trends. And so that's why when people are having these conversations about hypergamy, Okay. All right, you guys. I'm sorry about that. My computer. Something's up with StreamYard. I think it's StreamYard. I don't even know if it's my internet or if it's StreamYard or what it is, but I'm sorry. I apologize about that. Let me go ahead and wrap this up and finish this. So all the articles are linked in the description box below. All the articles, you can go look it up for yourself. This is not my opinion. Everything is linked below. Okay. All right. So just to recap, before I was cut off the internet, just to recap, the first point that I made was that basically people use a certain technique when they're getting married. We call it assortative mating. And I was saying that because women are going to college, they're earning almost as much as their husbands, or some are even out earning their husbands. And so many people are choosing to marry based on the desire to marry someone similar to them. And that's men and that's women across the board. Okay. All right. The second point that I want to make is the wealthy marry the wealthy. And I want to, you know what? I might split this video up into parts. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do part 2 tomorrow. I'm gonna come back and do part 2 tomorrow because this could be long. The wealthy and upper middle class marry each other. Okay, they don't tend to go too far out of what they are used to when they marry. I'm gonna bring up Harry and Meghan as this example. A lot of women were telling you that, you know, Harry essentially married down in a sense. And that may be so when it comes to their royal status, but it is not the case when it comes to Meghan's money. Okay. And this is why these conversations have to be more nuanced, because they don't really make sense. They're telling you that, you know, essentially Harry, you know, Meghan leveled up. Well, in some sense, she did level up, or she would have leveled up before they decided to do what they did with leaving their positions and going off on their own, which I don't agree with personally. I feel like, I know people say they treated Meghan really horribly or whatever, but that was a part of her legacy for her children. And so I don't think they should have left their roles. I think she should have just like sucked that up and, you know, really played out her role and solidified her position and stuck with it. But she chose to do her, which that's her right. But Harry did not marry down really that much financially, because you don't have to have the same amount of money. It's not about having, oh, like I have this amount of money, so you have to have this amount of money. It's about marrying someone who understands wealth. Women in the level up spaces, we're talking about Meghan like she grew up in poverty. Okay, that's how they were talking about this girl. Like she just grew up in the slum of the slum, and Harry just plucked her out of obscurity and married her. And that's not the case. So I just want to read a little bit from this article here. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's marriage was hailed as a fairy tale. An ordinary mixed race girl from Los Angeles marrying a British prince. But actually, Markle's background is pretty middle class, okay? Private schools, study, and internships abroad, and Hollywood contracts. By the time she married her prince, she was worth 3.5 million pounds, and earning about $330,000 a year. Okay, y'all, that's not poverty. That's not poverty. Harry did not pull Meghan out of poverty, y'all. Please stop listening to these stories. He did not pull her out of poverty. No, he didn't. She wasn't living in poverty. She was among the elites of the elites. Now, she was not royalty, which that's a different conversation. So in that regard, he did kind of pluck her out into a fairy tale type of situation, because normally I don't think there's too many Americans that have been able to marry royalty. So in that sense, yes, that was a unique circumstance, but she was not somebody slumming it, okay? Rather than being a Cinderella story, Markle's is far from a normal story of our times. Rich woman marries rich man. The only twist is she's fairly new money and he's old money. And so anybody who knows anything about wealthy circles, high society, there's a new money and there's an old money. We won't even get into it, okay? For connoisseurs of wealthy pairings, the New York Times wedding announcement section has traditionally been a must read. Okay. I can skip that part. That's not important. People were kind of, this is the part that I want to read. So they were saying he wasn't marrying well. Okay. They were trying to downplay Meghan as though she was like slumming it. So it says, it's basically giving you example of all of these rich supermodels and all of these rich actors and all of these rich men. They're not, yeah, one person might have 2 billion, but the other person might have 85 million. And they were saying that about like Salma Hayek. Like people talk about Salma Hayek as though, you know, she's so leveled up, but it's like, y'all, she's worth $85 million. She could pretty much go shopping every day with that amount of money. She doesn't need a billionaire husband. She was just blessed that a billionaire wanted her, okay? But she didn't really need a billionaire. But the point is that billionaire husband did not go to the slums and pick out the ordinary girl next door. He married another rich person. And that's where the article goes into. I won't read this to you. All of this will be in the description box below. But it's like, this is what assortative mating is, which means people marry people like themselves, okay? And the rich marry the rich. The upper middle class marry the upper middle class. It's not just that the rich are marrying each other either. They in the upper middle class are more likely to be married, full stop, than the poor. And then they're talking about how this is going around all over the world, you know, and it was talking about how in the UK, you see this in the number of children born out of wedlock. The figures skew drastically towards lower income groups, as children from married households tend to have better life outcomes. This would seem to support the idea that even outside the 1%, marriage works to concentrate wealth and success. And so that's just one aspect. Wealth is just one aspect of how people get together and decide they're going to get married. But also through my research, I learned that the more upper class you are, the more unlikely it is for you to have children out of wedlock, because people who are more upper class financially take having children more seriously. And I think this is one of the reasons why you hear your so-called high value men talk about how it's a stigma to be a single mother. And it's always been a stigma to be a single mother. It always has been. One of the reasons that it's a stigma is because although we know some people do it, more upper class people do not have children out of wedlock. Okay? It is concentrated in the lower middle class, working class, and poor. That's where out of wedlock children are most abundant. Now it is seeping into, you know, higher socioeconomic groups, but that's where the out of wedlock birth rate is concentrated. It's concentrated into lower middle class, working class, and poor. All right, so let's continue. And then I'm going to do a part 2 to this video tomorrow. So the first point is people get married through assortative mating. That's marrying someone similar. The second point is the wealthy marry their own. Numerous people, Hollywood, you can even look at someone like Cardi B and Offset, both very, very, how do I say this without being really mean? Low class, low class in the sense of their social status, meaning like nobody really respects them as a thought leader, as a role model. Like maybe some people look at them as a role model, but that shows that person's thought process. But they have the money that puts them in the elite class. But if you notice, what type of man did Cardi B attract? She attract another low value man. And together they have a low value relationship. So even people who are able to make money, you can still see this and how they attract their spouses. Like Cardi B could not attract some well-spoken, conservative, serious man. She's not used to that. She's used to ghetto life. Okay. So she's going to attract another ghetto person. And I know that sounds kind of harsh, but that's just the truth. They're ghetto. And that's why they love each other. That's why they love that drama and cheating and adultery and going back and forth and, that twerking. And even though she won't let you listen, she won't let her daughter listen to that, but she'll let other people's daughter listen to that and just dance their behinds off. But that's why you see like even people in Hollywood, like they're attracted to each other. They're both they're hood. She's hood and he's hood. And the only difference is they hood rich. Okay. They're a part of the elites now because of how much money they make. Yeah. Basically you attract who you are, your characteristics, your culture, your values, your spirituality. Not in all cases. We know there's always going to be exceptions to the rule, anomalies, but the data reveals that people marry people that they share the same characteristics with, whether that's physical, culture, religious, education level, or financial. Okay. All right. And the last point that I'm going to make before I get out of here is the decline of marriage and the rise of single parenthood in the late 1960s preceded the economic changes that undercut men's wages and jobs stability in the 1970s. Shifts in culture weakened marriage. So I want to talk to you about why the secretary used to be able to marry her boss. Like that used to be a thing. The secretary could marry her boss, and you would have women. It really didn't used to matter what a woman's educational level is. And a lot of men will still tell you that it doesn't matter, but that the data doesn't back that up. Okay. High earners are marrying high earners. The data just doesn't back it up. It doesn't back it up. Okay. And so husbands now are marrying up. That's the point that I'm going to leave with. And then I'm going to come back tomorrow with part 2. And I might just do a recorded video to avoid the live. But men are marrying up now. So 25% of husbands are married to wives who have more education than they do. But the good thing about that, you guys, is that husbands still statistically make more money than their wives. Even if their wife has more education, statistically, husbands still make more money. So that's good news. That's good news. That's still good news. Okay. So the middle class marriage has declined, and we're having a inequality. I don't even like to call it inequality. I mean, your life choices are going to determine how hard your life is or how not hard your life is. Some people were born in better circumstances than other people's circumstances, but there comes a certain time in your life where you have to decide what you're going to do. Are you going to better yourself? Are you going to get some form of education? Are you going to work on your womanhood, your femininity, your etiquette? Are you going to do those things? We can't just keep blaming our parents for what your result is in your 35. Okay. So that's why you see a decline in marriage. Men are not as educated as they used to be. Men used to have more job opportunity, But now with all of this like heavy feminism and women getting special privileges and, quotas and affirmative action and all of these things, men have been pushed out of the workforce. See, nobody's talking about this. A lot of women will get on, and this is not a racial thing. This is not broken down by race. This is all races now. I'm talking in general. But if I'm going to even talk about certain niches on YouTube, there are certain niches on YouTube where, Black women, they're telling you, well, Black men are dusty and blah, blah, blah. And yes, some Black men are dusty, and you're dusty for picking the man that was dusty. You both are dusty. You're dusty. And the Black man you pick is dusty because you need to choose better and take accountability. Okay. So, but what they never tell you about why Black men are dusty is because we're ignoring our boys. Our boys cannot read. Our boys cannot read. We're not putting the attention on men to help them grow up and cultivate that manhood in them. Boys are being neglected in schools across the board. So now in today's society, we are seeing the effects of men not going to college as much. When I was a young girl, that's one of the reasons we went to college. We knew we were going to leave with our husbands. It was a lot of men around. That's no longer going to be the case for the college girls. There's a huge decline in men going to college. And that's a place where women used to meet men and get married because you were around so many men. You had access to young men. You had access to older men. I mean, I had older men that was checking for me. I had you just have a pool of men when you're young. But my question is, where are women going to find these hypergamous men if men are not getting educated at the pace that women are being educated? Hi, girl. If men are not being educated at the pace that women are being educated, and nobody is talking about why men are lacking in masculinity or education or career, but you want to call them dusty all day online, well, I think that's disingenuous. I think that's disingenuous to call men dusty and not providers when you haven't taken any time to do research. You haven't taken any time to know the facts. You're just spewing out your thoughts of the way the world works. And what I'm telling you is the data is telling you why there's a decline in marriage. The data is telling you why upper class people are now most likely only going to marry upper class people, and rich people are going to marry rich people, especially with this pandemic. A lot of for the people, the pandemic didn't touch some people. It didn't touch me. The pandemic didn't affect me one way or the other. It didn't affect me. It didn't affect me. It didn't affect my husband's income. But for many people who are not in these upper class groups, or who don't have a solid career path that is needed, and I'm not talking about essential workers. Essential workers got very popular during the pandemic because, we needed the people to deliver our packages and stuff like that. But I'm not talking about essential workers. I'm talking about people with hardcore, serious careers that required years of schooling, training, certifications. These men are not being. Where are the men that are getting their education at the rate that women are? I mean, it's going to be colleges full of women. And another reason is because of the liberalism, the feminism. Men don't want to go to college and be indoctrinated with all of this feminism. Not real men, okay? They don't want to go to college and be indoctrinated with all this feminism, and women are, we are women and we're goddesses and we're queens. They're just not going to college. They're not getting the education, and they're choosing not to marry. And the men that are choosing to marry are going to be your upper class, your upper middle class, and your elite. Marriage is going to become only for the elite, because that's what the data is showing you guys. And nobody is talking about this. We know that women are going to get married to the end of time. But what I'm trying to tell you is it's time to start looking at homogamy. All right. Hypergamy is leveling up, what they like to call it, marrying. It could be one class, it could be two classes above you. Hypogamy is marrying down, like you marry someone down from you. You know, y'all don't have the same education level, or you're not in the same social class. But homogamy is finding people that share your values, your interests, that have a career, that have an income, that could provide a lifestyle for you. A 25-year-old cannot provide you with a hypergamous lifestyle. Okay, I don't hear women say this enough. A 25-year-old cannot provide you with a hypergamous lifestyle. I should know. I got married at, well, how old was I? I don't know, 22, 23. My husband came from a upper middle class family. So obviously we never lived in poverty, but we didn't have high earning jobs. You know, our families were middle class, upper middle class, but we didn't have high, earning jobs like that. It takes years of building yourself as a couple to get to the point where you're starting to see the fruits of your labor. That's how our grandmothers did it. That's how our great grandmothers did it. And it doesn't mean that you can't be a housewife or a stay-at-home mom. You don't need a rich man to be a housewife or a stay-at-home mom. That's a huge myth. If you want to live a lifestyle above your means, if you don't want to budget, if you don't want to cook at home, there's going to be sacrifices that have to be made if you truly want to get married in today's society. And that's not what I hear people saying. They're having all of these frivolous conversations that don't make any sense. They're giving you terrible advice. Sacrifices must be made if you want to live a certain lifestyle. Okay? There's no man most likely on a white horse with his sword that's about to come, scoop you up, and give you some hypergamous lifestyle, because the men don't exist. They're not getting educated. Last year, there was a slew of articles that came out that talked about how women are having a really hard time finding men that have their education level and that also have their financial, their financial status. So all I want to say is, don't listen to what I'm saying. Go read the articles, understand the trends. What is the trends for dating? How are people meeting men? It's different from in my time. In my time, we went to college and we found men while we were in college, because that's how everybody got married in my family. My mom went to college, met her husband. My sister went to college and met her husband. So what did you think I was thinking about when I went to college? Get this degree and leave with a ring. But now girls are waiting until they're 36. Why are you waiting until you're 36 to start thinking about marriage? Why are we telling women to wait until they're 36, 37, 38, 40 to get married? Because now you're competing with all the 25, 24, and 23-year-olds that can still date the men that you're dating. So it's just not a winning game to keep delaying dating and keep delaying marriage and keep delaying it and keep delaying it, because now you're in competition with other women and you're making it harder for yourself. And the research is showing that those top earning men don't exist. It's in the 8%. 8% of men are making that type of money. Maybe 10% for the people who have, I always leave a little stretch room when I'm doing statistics and data, because you got to leave some breathing room. But if we're going to say only 8 to 10% of all men, and I think it's maybe 12% of all men. It's even smaller if you're, in a minority group. But let's just say if we're talking about 12%, let's just give it 12. Do you guys know how small population of men that is, of top earners? That is like minute. But what I'm here to tell you is there's still hope. And I'm going to bring the second part of this video tomorrow. I'm going to wrap it up. Do any of you have anything to say? Right. Trying to start with no dating history. Right. I just, these hypergamy conversations really bother me. And they really bother me not because I don't believe in living a hypergamous lifestyle. Women are hypergamous by nature. We were created to be cared for and taken care of by men. But the demands and all of this love and hip hop and Atlanta Housewives and Real Housewives of Beverly Hills and all of this media is giving women these unrealistic standards of what you want in a man. And then on top of that, you have this long list of what you want in a man. You probably can't even meet those demands yourself, but men have like 5 requirements. Like 5. All a man wants is for you to be attractive, sexually excited, kind, cooperative. Like they have like 4 or 5 things they want on their list. Like that's it. Like men are very, very simple. They have like 4 things on their list. And women, I see women, they have this long list of men. Thoughts on blue collar men. Thoughts on blue collar men is where it's at. Blue collar men is going to be where it's at for the women who are in the middle class, and maybe some upper. See, the thing about getting an education is it makes you sort of an elitist to a certain extent, because it's, even if your degree is not in like chemical engineering or something that's really, really, like my husband's degree is in biology. That was a pretty, that was not that's not the same kind of major as like criminal justice, like, you know what I'm saying? So some people have majors that are like, their degrees are a little more complex, but it's not about the degree. It's about the fact that you want people to view you a certain way. So a lot of educated women really don't want to be with blue collar men because they don't feel like that is enough status. And then you're talking about different social classes, maybe different cultural interests. Maybe you feel like you don't share the same type of you just don't share the same type of vision. But I'm here to say blue collar men is definitely where it's at for middle class women, even up into the upper middle class, because blue collar men can be 6-figure earners. Blue collar men, plumbers. My grandfather was a plumber. My uncle was a plumber. And let me tell you something. Everybody's going to need an electrician. Everyone's going to need a plumber. We always going to need buildings to be built. We're always going to need, all the work that blue collar men do is what makes the world turn. And don't you love a man that could work with his hands? I mean, don't you love a man that could build stuff and can fix stuff? I mean, I don't see why we shame blue collar men when they are the foundation of society. Blue collar men are men that do not have a college education. Like they don't go to get a 4-year degree or graduate school. They go into trades. Okay. So blue collar men are men that are in trades. And I know a lot of bougie women All right, bye guys. I'm gonna see you guys tomorrow. My internet, and this is not my internet. This is a Kuwait thing. The internet is just not great here in Kuwait. It's one of the adjustments that I had to make to live in a country that I really like, but this is what I don't like about living here. I miss American internet. I'm not gonna lie. I miss American internet. Like I miss, yes, this will be uploaded to YouTube. So I want to thank you guys for joining me. I'm sorry for the technical difficulties. It's not my fault. It's not my fault. It's just a part of living here in the Middle East. That's kind of what I've been experiencing. So I just wanted to come and say goodbye. I will upload a video tomorrow. I'll try to upload a video tomorrow, completing my thoughts, putting all my thoughts together about hypergamy, because I don't think there's anything wrong with hypergamy. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. We are hypergamous by nature, but we are not trying to sell our bodies or sugar baby or be prostitutes so that we can find the highest bidder who will put a ring on our finger. No, we should be looking at values, and we should use assortative mating. We should be using assortative mating because that is how you find somebody that shares your values. All right. I will see you later. Thanks for watching.